Today I'm doing a follow-up to Sylvain for his 10 decks for Lent tag. I'm doing a follow-up to what happened during my Lent season. Did I stick to the 10 decks? Did I do more than 10 decks? Did I do less? How did I feel it went for me, and what did I learn from the process? Well, I think my biggest takeaway was that my mind and my heart and my spirit is really in a depth year, a deep depth year, where I don't want to flit and I want to go deep with just one deck. And I found pulling 10 decks out for Lent kind of distracted me. It made me leave things that had got my full attention, and I didn't even use all the 10 decks. This was a deck, the Chrysalis Tarot, that I ended up not working with for no reason apart from I just didn't get round to working with it. I think I'm going to keep this out now though, because it's beautiful spring colours, and I'm in the garden now, and I did say that I thought this would be beautiful to take up the garden. I'm in the garden. Look at the state of these nails, they're all broken. I've got stinging nettle rashes all up my arms. It's gardening season, guys. You're gonna have to excuse the state of the nails. I'm not a hand model anyway, at the best of times, but they're trashed at the minute. But yeah, this deck, I think I'm going to take this up the garden once I've cleared some space up there, but that's another video. Because look at it, it's beautiful, but I didn't use it. That was one deck that I didn't use. And then this deck in this beautiful Peggy bag also sat unused, and in here we've got the Tarot of Transformation. I'd chosen this, and I actually said I thought it would pair beautifully with the Chrysalis, so it doesn't surprise me that these are actually the two that actually got left out. Not because I don't adore them, because I really do love both of these decks, but it just got left out because I was busy doing the same reason, busy using the other decks and just busy with life and not getting to them. So those were two decks, the two decks out of my 10 that I never got to. Can you see this box is falling apart? I think I am going to sort that box out. In the meantime, I'm just going to put those cards in there. Also, there was a additional deck. I actually had 10 decks plus one. The reason being was Adventure Tarot. I thought if I got to go out over Lent to find another Sheila in a gig church, then my Adventure Tarot deck, which is this one, the Dark Goddess Tarot, would need to come with me, so I might end up using this, but I didn't manage to get out. I've only done the two Sheila in a gig churches so far. I was in Wales at the caravan doing jobs down there, and then different jobs up here had my attention, so there hasn't been a weekend where I've been able to get out on Adventure Tarot during Lent. So this one, although I sneaked it in as an additional deck, it didn't actually need to be sneaked in at all because I didn't use it. Also, we could almost say that I almost didn't use the Mother Mary deck. I'm going to reach across in front of me, because pegged up on my board in front of me is the only card that I pulled through during the whole of Lent, and it's just been out because it blew my mind. This, I felt, was a really strong depiction of the Spirit of Place card that I'd drawn as part of my Arthurian tarot studies, and I loved it so much. These two have just been out on the desk in front of me, and the Mother Mary Oracle didn't get used again. So it's almost another deck that didn't get used at all. Another deck which I didn't use in Lent, which was part of my 10, was Katherine Briggs' New Chapter Tarot. I just didn't feel called to work with it. I really didn't. The timing just didn't feel right for working at all with it. Again, it's one I'm leaving out. I do want to give it a good go, see how it feels to work with. But I didn't use this at all. But what I did do, instead of working with this deck, I swapped this deck out for another deck that I absolutely couldn't ignore the call to work with. So I popped this one away, and instead I worked with the Witch's Wisdom Tarot instead, by Phyllis Curate and Danielle Barlow. Now, I saw this being used by Amy over at Mystic Rose Tarot, and she did was it a spring equinox reading with it, and it was just so profound and wonderful that the next day I just felt like I really wanted to pull it out and work with it. And of course, the first reading I did, I pulled this card, which was part of some of Amy's readings over those few days that I'd been watching her channel. And if you haven't watched Amy read cards, then go in and check her out. I'll link her again in my description box. I love watching Amy's channel, and she's just moved from the mountains to the heat of New Mexico. So yeah, she's having adventures at the moment, which is brilliant. But yeah, the very next morning I pulled two cards out that were really similar to Amy's readings, and it kind of made me realise that there was a call to use this deck, and I've loved it. It's been really heavily used over the last few weeks. This card, although not one of my initial favourites in the deck, has stalked me over Lent, and it's now one of my favourites in the deck. This is the other card that Amy pulled, that I pulled the very next morning. So I think the lesson I learned here with the Witch's Wisdom and swapping it out, swapping the New Chapter Tarot out and replacing it with this, was that when it comes to deck choice, for me, I need to listen to those whispers, to those callings to different decks, because I think to pay attention to that is really important. Now, what I did with this deck, as well as doing the court card study, which I'm still right in the middle of, I also paired it with the Seed and Sickle Oracle. So although the New Chapter got taken out, Liminal 11 came back in, because of course the Seed and Sickle is one of their decks too, as you will see by the box within a box. Now, the Seed and Sickle with the Witch's Wisdom, I think, has been one of my favourite newfound pairings so far this year, and possibly of all time. It's just been so lovely. It works for a number of reasons for me. I think like that nature, plant, animal, sort of green witch feel is in both decks. The card stock is the same. It's feels the same. This is slightly thinner. You've got synchronicities like the yellow flowers on the back, like synchronicities that makes it feel like it just should be, and also the way they talk to each other. I've had some beautiful readings with these two decks together, so much so that this is the reason I kind of felt a bit distracted, because I'm working with the Arthurian Tarot for the Hallows quest, and that was all consuming the Hallows quest since the start of the year. The Arthurian Tarot was virtually the only deck I was working with, but when the beauty of this came in, oh my gosh, I just wanted to work with this all the time. So that's what I mean by I found upping it to 10 decks kind of distracted me a little bit. It just made me realise how lucky we all are to have these incredible options to work with. So yeah, I kind of got a bit distracted by this one. So that's another lesson that I learned. I don't necessarily need too many decks out at any one time, and I think for me personally, to get the most out of a deck, I need to just love it all by itself. And but I've said that, does that mean I'm going to put everything away and only work with the Arthurian again? Probably not, no. Oh my gosh, too spoilt, see, we're very lucky. But this combination I loved. So I found a new pairing, I started a new study, and I've loved it. So that was a real plus point. So speaking of the Arthurian Tarot, have I been using this? Not as much over Lent. I think I'm probably about 3 lessons behind, which is about 3 weeks, probably not quite 3 weeks, probably probably 2.5 weeks behind. So I've got a bit of catching up to do, which makes me feel a little bit anxious. But what I did do during Lent is I paired it with the Mists of Avalon Oracle, and so these are the backs on the Oracle, these are the backs on the Arthurian Tarot, and oh my goodness me, I've loved these two together. Now, I've said before, talking about the Hallow Quest, which loads of you are asking me, what is the Hallows Quest? The Hallows Quest is a pathworking meditation, year-long journey using the Arthurian Tarot. It's all laid out in different lessons in the back of the big complete book that you can buy with this deck. But I've said before, this has just gone out of print. So what I am going to do for viewers' requests is I'm going to compare the cards of this with other Celtic decks that are also in print. And I will talk again about the Hallows Quest, because people have said that they do still want to hear about the Hallows Quest, which is lovely. But I'll try and see if I can explain how you could do it with a different deck as well, because to be honest, the pathworking lessons that I've learned so far, I would like to work out a way to apply it to other decks. But you can see the theme of these, it just has been such a nice combination. So probably for general readings, this has had as much time spent on it during Lent as the Witch's Wisdom and the Seed and Sickle. I've just loved them together. You can see thematically they are beautiful. It was really nice to spend enough time with the Oracle and with this pairing. I just loved it. I really did. I loved it. But also I tried it with another of my 10 decks. I added into the mix the Reclaim Oracle, because this for me works for identifying emotions within a reading. So I've been pulling out these readings and then alongside it adding in one of these cards to kind of get a pointer towards what emotion I need to journal about to do with the reading. And that has been fantastic to do. This deck actually has been out with a lot of readings. I've been using it by itself as well. I had another viewer request to compare this one to the Iris Oracle, like do they do the same job, and it's the reason why I didn't immediately jump for the Reclaim Oracle, even though I really wanted it, and my friend gifted it to me in the end, and I wondered whether it would be the same as the Iris, but oh no, it's totally different space. But I'm going to try and do a video comparing them both. But it's a fantastic card pull to tap into the an emotion journaling prompt for a reading, and I've absolutely loved these three together as well. So that leaves me with the last two decks, which I've also worked with during Lent. Both of them were as yet really unused. I started off just using the Gentle Tarot by itself, and I've absolutely fallen in love with it. I think it is so gorgeous. It is just so beautiful. So why so beautiful? Well, I think it's the voice of the deck. I mean, the card quality and the card stock and the muted colours are all just divine. I love the animals. I just love the whole energy of the deck. It's the first real hug deck that I've ever really felt like I've owned. Like, I would go to this deck when I felt like I needed a hug. But it also makes me think differently about some card meanings as well. It's been really it's pushed me as well as hugged me. Now, I tried pairing it with this Primrose and Prose Oracle, which is new to me. I got it at the end of last year for my birthday, but I'd not used it yet. The jury is still out on this deck. It's not love at first sight with it, although the aesthetics of it is beautiful. I'm still getting to know it. It didn't add as much into the readings as I hoped it would, but I've only used it for a very short amount of time at the end of Lent, so it's not had a good go yet. So the jury's still out. I will have to feed back later how I feel about it. I think aesthetically as well, I'm not absolutely sure that these two are a match, but it was interesting to play with them. I think the Gentle Tarot for me kind of stands alone with its own voice. So that's the last pairing in Lent. So a summary of some lessons from my 10 decks for Lent. I think for me it was just a reminder that the decks on your shelf that you haven't got to yet, it's a massive shame to have that, and I've got a lot of decks that I haven't got round to using yet, like the Chrysalis Tarot, which should have been in these 10 decks, being an example in point, but it's not the only one on my shelves. And the Gentle Tarot I'd had for a while, and it hadn't been worked with, like a few months, and yet it's this incredible gem of a deck that is just got such a beautiful voice. It's so would be so transformative to just focus in on this, and I think that's the word that has really played on my mind this Lent. It's focus. With my no buy year and my depth year, or just I think a depth life, because it's the way I want to use things all the time. It's to sit with something and to give it total focus, and I think then we can really pull out the gems in front of us. And I think once I started working with this deck and thought, oh my gosh, that's been on my shelf for months not being used, it kind of felt like a crying shame to be in that position where I'm overwhelmed by too much stuff. And all year that's been the theme, the decluttering, you know, as my house is becoming more empty. I think to myself, wow, I'm enjoying my house so much more because I can focus on just enjoying less and having space and the time to focus on what I do have. So that need for less and the key word of focus has been sharp in my mind. And just how less, and just what do I mean by less? Is it 10 decks? Is it 20 decks? Is it 50 decks? Well, for me this Lent, 10 decks were too many. It took my focus away. I feel like I need to reconnect with the Arthurian, where we were having this most incredible, amazing journey together, and then the other 9 decks coming in just pulled me away from that. It's very easy to lose focus. So there's that word again, focus. It's incredibly easy to lose focus and to almost, for me, lose the magic, of really connecting on a really profound level. And of course I am just talking about myself here. So focusing on what I do have by using less and connecting more and not getting distracted, the importance of all of that has really come into sharp focus this Lent. Also the fact that one card sat with for weeks and weeks and weeks can also have a profound effect. Again, that's less cards. Oh my gosh, I think we've got a theme. And with that less and that greater focus, of course, study has been more opened up for me. I'm not flitting from post to post to post. I am focused, and that has encouraged me to sit down and really do the study that I always want to do, but often hear myself saying, oh, I don't have time, I haven't got round to it. I've been wanting to do a deep study of this deck for over a year, plus a deep study of the court cards since I started this tarot journey over 2 years ago now. I don't have time. Well, with this deck in focus, without too many distractions, that court card study and the deep dive with this has begun, and I've loved it. And I think my tarot practice has improved dramatically over Lent because of it. So the magical power of less has really come into sharp focus for me in Lent. So that's it, guys. What happened on my 10 decks for Lent, which turned into almost only 7 decks for Lent, really. Some fantastic new pairings, the time to connect with gems that in the past might have been overlooked because of too much stuff, and a realization that for me, focus and not overwhelming myself with too much is the key. 10 decks for me felt like too much, and I think moving forward I'm going to bring it down to probably no more than 4 decks, 3 decks, say, in a single month. But I hold the right to change my mind, because it's easy to get seduced by different decks you want to work with. Oh, and also to follow your gut, to not be afraid to change your mind about deck use, and to follow the quiet whispers in the back of your mind that tell you to reach for another deck. That was another lesson I learned when I swapped to the Witch's Wisdom, which was the best thing I did this Lent. So that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you, Sylvain, for this fantastic tag. I'll link Sylvain's channel below as well as Amy's. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.